Hey, my name is Marley and welcome to my booktube channel. Today I'm going to be doing a book haul, my spring and summer book haul. I tend to do these twice a year on my channel. We have a little less than 20 books here, but I'm going to take you through all of the books I've hauled in the last 2 seasons. You will find that I have read a lot of these books, which I think just shows that I actually have been prioritizing reading the books that I'm buying, which is always great as a reader. However, I hope this video is not too repetitive as I have posted reviews from a lot of these books. So let's just get into it. I've been keeping track of the order, so I'm going to talk about them in the order I got them. Starting out, we have A Brush with Love by Maisie Eddings. So this is an adult romance book, and I actually got this from my friend Allie for Christmas, but then I got it from her a little bit after that because she annotated it for me. That's why there's all these tabs in it, and this was actually a really fun experience doing this with her. I was inspired by other people who do this on BookTube where they annotate and then trade books with friends. So this was our first year of doing it for Christmas, and it was so fun reading her thoughts while reading this book, especially as like a very silly, funny romance. There was a lot of funny comments that she was able to make and cringy things to kind of point out. If you don't know the plot of this, we're following these 2 people who are going to dental school, and one of them is like really passionate about being a dentist. She's a goody 2-shoes, works very hard at studying and has a lot of anxiety, and the other one is sort of questioning whether he really wants to pursue dentistry or not. He's kind of being pressured into it as the family business, but they end up falling for each other. And I believe I gave this book about 4 stars. It's not my favorite romance, but it was a very funny one. Next up, I got Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. So I was waiting for this one for a long time because I got all the rest of the books in the Grishaverse series in paperback, and I had to wait a while for this one to come out in paperback. But yet I have still not read this book. Even though I've been waiting like I think a year or 2 years for this, I still haven't gotten to it. I've even watched the latest season of the show, which I think kind of spoiled some things in this. But yeah, this is a book in the Grishaverse. So there's the first series, Shadow and Bone, the second series, Six of Crows, and this is like the third series, which is a duology, and the first one was called King of Scars. And I quite liked that book. It's following some of my favorite characters in this fantasy series, but I don't know, I just have not been prioritizing this sequel. And at this point, I feel like I've forgotten so much about the series. I really just need to get to this, but it's so long. And I'm like, ugh, like definitely just been putting it off. The next 2 I got because I read the whole Croup Prince series and I was loving it. So then I went out and bought The King of Elfame, How the King of Elfame Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black, and then The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. These are both in the same world as the Folk of the Air series, but I've still not read either of them. This is like a little novella or like short story collection about Carden, who is the prince from the Folk of the Air series, and then this is a sequel series to that one, and it's following Jude, who's the main character in Cruel Prince. It's following her younger brother and now his journey, and I think now he's finally like a teenager, whereas he was a kid in the first series. I still have hope that I will get to this by the end of the year. I just really enjoyed the Cruel Prince series so much that I'm really excited to get to these books, and they're so pretty too. Then I got Killjoy by Holly Jackson, and I have read this one. This is a prequel novella related to the Good Girls Guide to Murder series, which if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you would know that I absolutely love that series, and I am just absolute trash for Holly Jackson. So of course I had to read this, and it literally takes an hour to read. It's so short, but it was a very fun time, and I still have been recommending it for people who are big fans of the series. You don't have to read it for any reason with the plot or anything, but it's just kind of fun and an extra little story for if you enjoy reading about Pip and the mysteries in that series. Oh, and I should say it's about Pip going to a murder mystery party with her friends. Then I got The Sun and the Star, and this is by Rick Riordan and Mark Oshiro, sorry. It's from the world of Percy Jackson. It's a Nico D'Angelo adventure. So it takes place in the same world as Percy Jackson books. Rick Riordan is one of my favorite authors, so I of course had to buy this book right away and read it as early as I could. I think I read it in June when I was reading all Pride books, because this is following Nico, who's the son of Hades, and his boyfriend Will, who is the son of Apollo. And we've seen them in a bunch of the other books that take place in this world, but this was finally an adventure just focused on them. And it was definitely fun. It's always fun to go on a little quest with Rick's characters. It can be very funny. However, I didn't totally love this as much as I wanted to. It got a little bit cheesy, and you could definitely tell there was something a little bit different, and that was obviously that there was another co-author writing it. You could kind of feel that. So not my favorite Percy Jackson related book, but still a fun time, and I would recommend. Then I got this book, Silver in the Bone by Alexandra Bracken. So she's a pretty popular YA author, or she was back in the day. She wrote the Darkest Minds series, which was a favorite for me. She also wrote Lore, which came out recently, and I liked that one too. It was a Greek retelling, but this is like a King Arthur-esque retelling. I actually don't know a ton about it because I haven't heard too much, but I think Alexandra Bracken is just an author I want to continue reading from. And I love Arthurian legends, so I had to buy it. Tasman Lark didn't ask to be a hollower. As a mortal with no magical talent, she was never meant to break into ancient crypts or compete with sorceresses and cunning folk for the treasure inside. But after her thieving foster father disappeared without so much as a goodbye, it was the only way to keep herself and her brother Cable alive. 10 years later, rumors are swirling that her guardian vanished with a powerful ring from Arthurian legend. A run-in with her rival Emrys ignites Tasman's hope that the ring could free Cable from a curse that threatens both of them, but they aren't the only ones who covet the ring. Okay, that's all I'll read, but sounds good. Then of course, you know, this summer I had to get Happy Place by Emily Henry, and I did read it and I loved it like everyone else. Actually, not everyone loved it, but I was someone who loved it. This is about these two people who have been dating and were actually engaged for years, but they've actually recently broken up, but they haven't told their friend group yet, so they have to pretend to still be together when they go on this summer cottage week with their friends, because they don't want to disrupt the vibes and ruin the good time. So they have to fake date. It's very much focused on the friendships more than any other one of Emily Henry's books, which also made it stand out, and I really liked that. And just as always, I really related to our two main characters. Her characters are always just ones I really connect with, so I think that's why I enjoy her book so much. So yeah, I was hesitant to purchase this because it's her first book that came out as a hardcover, so I have all her other books as paperbacks. And I kind of wish I would have waited for the paperback to come out, but oh well, they'll just have to not all match. Then I went to this little like secondhand book pop-up shop, whatever, when I was visiting a friend. It was like the town was selling books, I think as some sort of fundraising effort. I can't remember. But the one that I found was My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. So this is a thriller author I've heard a lot about here on BookTube, and I just never read from her. And if you've been watching my recent videos, you know I am in need of some new thriller recs because a lot of the books I've been reading lately have been disappointing me. But this one says, Dexter meets Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and this wildly compulsive debut thriller about a couple whose 15-year marriage has finally gotten too interesting. Our love story is simple. I met a gorgeous woman, we fell in love, we had kids, we moved to the suburbs. We told each other our biggest dreams and our darkest secrets, and then we got bored. We look like a normal couple. We are your neighbors, the parents of your kids' friends, the acquaintances you keep meaning to get dinner with. We all have our secrets to keeping a marriage alive. Ours just happens to be getting away with murder. Okay, I'm trying to think of this plot. Yeah, so I guess it's just a couple that murders people together. I can't remember any more detail about this plot, but that sounds pretty cool. Then we have another thriller, You're Invited, and this is by Amanda Jayatisa, and I did actually read this one, and I do consider it an underrated thriller. I really enjoyed it. It's revolving around a wedding. So our main character finds out that her ex-best friend and her ex-boyfriend are getting married in Sri Lanka, where she is from, and so she ends up getting invited to this wedding, but she is set against ruining it. As you can imagine, she has beef with her ex-best friend and her ex-boyfriend. So we just know that she's trying to disrupt this wedding. We don't exactly know to the lengths she's gonna go, maybe murder, because the bride, which is the friend, ends up going missing. That's what we know going into it. So this one actually was really entertaining. I feel like anything with weddings and like backstabbing friends and stuff is very fun. There were a lot of twists and turns at the end that I think I rated this like a 4.5 stars or something. So this is a good one for sure, and I found this secondhand for like $2 or something, so was happy about that. But then speaking of disappointing thrillers, so a bunch of thrillers came out this summer, and that's what I'm gonna haul next. So we had Ruth Ware's 0 Days, which I recently read, and you probably saw in my recent wrap up that I was disappointed with it. We're following this couple who break into businesses as their business and just kind of report on how good the security is at these different businesses. But basically, when the wife comes home, her husband has been murdered, and it just kind of becomes a typical story where she becomes the main suspect. So she has to go on the run to try and figure out who killed her husband herself, because it looks like someone is framing her. Didn't do anything special. The mystery was not that great, and I guessed who was guilty from the very start. So a book that didn't disappoint was The Only One Left by Riley Sanger, my king. And I'm so glad to see that so many other people are enjoying this, because I know a lot of people didn't like his last 2 releases. I still did. But this is a really twisty thriller. Like, if you want to read plot twists, definitely read this. We're following this woman who is a caretaker, and she gets assigned to this other woman who lives in this house. This older woman has been known to have killed her whole family back in the day, but it was never proved, so she's just been chilling, living in this house all these years. But now our main character Kit is going to take care of her. The woman, Lenora Hope, decides to finally reveal what happened all those years ago, if she really killed her family or what happened with her family. She decides to type it out on a typewriter because she cannot talk and she's not verbal at all, so she can only use her hands to like type it out. So we're seeing these like different timelines. We're seeing Kit in the present day, living in this house, taking care of Lenora, and then we're seeing this story that Lenora is typing out of like what happened years ago. Just amazing. Such a good thriller. Definitely try and squeeze it in before the summer ends. I think it's a great read that will not take any time at all, and is probably one of the best thrillers of the year. All right, then we have One of Us is Back by Karen M. McManus. This is the 3rd book in the One of Us is Lying trilogy, and it was pretty good. I rated it 4 stars. I read it recently. It just wrapped up the series pretty nicely, but if you didn't care for the first book in the series, like, it's not like it's gonna get better. If you didn't like the first book, then don't continue. But if you did like the first 2 books, check this one out. It has all of our main characters that you learned about from the previous 2 books. There's callbacks to the previous 2 books you might appreciate. Yeah, just a solid time. Then we have Everyone Here Is Lying by Sherry Lapina. I have not read this book yet, but I like the colors. I like that. But yeah, Sherry Lapina. So I've officially read all of her books. I actually just recently completed her backlist. Some of her books I have absolutely loved, and some were disappointments. I found that her books tend to get better though, so I really do have high hopes for this one being her newest release. And I have heard some pretty good things about it too. Do I remember the plot? No. Welcome to Stanhope, a safe neighborhood, a place for families. On the surface, William Wooler is a family man, but he's been having an affair, classic Sherry Lapina, an affair that ended horribly this afternoon at a motel up the road. When he returns to his house, devastated and angry to find his difficult 9-year-old daughter, Avery, unexpectedly home from school, William loses his temper. Hours later, Avery's family declares her missing. Suddenly, Stanhope doesn't feel so safe, and William isn't the only one on his street who's hiding a lie. As witnesses come forward with information that may or may not be true, his neighbors become increasingly unhinged. Who took Avery Wooler? Nothing will prepare you for the truth. So it does sound very basic again, but still, I've heard good things. It's gonna give that domestic thriller energy that can be very fun. So yeah. Then we have Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. I actually bought this book when I was in the UK. I wanted to get a book that had a specific UK cover while I was there that I wanted that you can't get here in North America. And weirdly enough, I found that since they started selling Alice Oseman's books in North America, this is the only book that I haven't been able to find this cute cover for. As you can see on the back, like this is what all of her covers look like with this same art style. The only one I own and have read right now is Loveless, but I do plan on collecting the rest of her books because I really love them. But for some reason, it's just this ugly cover, or a cover I don't like as much, that's been in Canada. So I took advantage and I got this cute cover version while I was there. This is actually the most recent book that I have finished, and I'll just say I loved it. But we are following our main character, Frances, who is very much that goody two-shoes, hard worker at school, gets really good grades. She's the head girl at her school, as this is a British book. And then she ends up befriending this kid, Alid, who's like our other main character. And it's just really a book about friendship and about being a teenager and all those conflicting feelings you have, and like not knowing what you want, or feeling like societal pressures from your peers and your family. Just a big kind of coming of age teenage story, but really focused on friendship, and it just really hit for me. I think this would be a great book for a lot of teens out there, especially ones who are feeling like they don't fit in. It's just so beautiful. Yeah, it just confirmed that I really do need to go buy her other books and just finish up reading all of them. Then we have Lisa Jewell. None of this is true. I love Lisa Jewell. She's one of my favorite thriller authors, and this is her newest release that I have been hearing good things about, but I've just not gotten to yet. I know this has something to do with like a podcast element and these two women. I don't know a ton about the plot, and honestly, I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to read out another plot. I've already done that enough in this video. But yeah, I'm really hoping to get to this by the end of the year. But as I said, like so many of my typical thriller authors have been disappointing me lately, like Lisa Jewell and Sherry Lapina, that I probably should branch out and read some different thriller authors maybe before I get to this. I don't know. Should I prioritize it? Let me know in the comments. Then I got a couple YA books to end off this haul. We have Family of Liars by E. Lockhart. And this is the prequel second book to We Were Liars. And again, I own the first book as a paperback, so I've just been waiting for the second book to come out as paperback so they can match. And it did. But basically, this is just about the parents of our characters in We Were Liars. So it should have similar vibes of like summer vacation on the beach, mystery. Hopefully the writing's as good and as beautiful as the first one. Hopefully there's some sort of mystery as well as following the parents. Is there anything we don't know? Like, honestly, I guess I don't remember the first book as much, so maybe that's good going in. Maybe there will be some things that surprise me. But the first book, I did give 5 stars. It really got to me. I cried. I love the plot twist. Yeah, hopefully this will be good. And the last one I have is The Legacies by Jessica Goodman. This is another YA thriller. I've read the rest of her books and I felt pretty mediocre about them. I've liked them, but at this point, I'm just kind of buying all of her books. So she does seem to get better each time, so I am curious to see how this will go. It is on my TBR for this month, so a review will be coming soon. But it's essentially like a rich kid teen thriller, which we see a lot. I think it's like at a prestigious boarding school, there's some sort of big gala or party, and then someone dies. And it's going to be a mystery surrounding that. So it should be a fun time. Probably nothing too serious, nothing too deep, but stay tuned for that review. So those are the 18 books I have hauled recently. I actually have another order of books that did not get here in time of when I wanted to film this. Anyways, let me know your thoughts below, especially on any of the books I haven't read yet. If you've read them, let me know if I should be prioritizing them or not. But just thank you so much for watching. Follow me on Goodreads and Instagram if you have not already. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!